Yes, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching us from. I thank you and welcome you here on Uganda Crossroads. It's another Saturday of the year, and of course, it's a month that everyone is scared of their lives. But most importantly, it's not so much with the black skin, but our brothers and sisters from the other part of the world over the coronavirus problem that is affecting every individual, whether you like it or not. You may not be affected physically by the disease, but financially, somewhere, somehow, it's coming your way. So it's what it is. We cannot say that it's going to go out tomorrow, but everyone is doing their best to fight against it and also help others to know how they can control the problem. So it's a very serious problem that has left many countries to stop flights from one end to another. And I'm pretty much sure you all know right now, at least I can tell you, that at least 16 countries have been banned by Uganda from entering the country. And among them, United States, you're no longer supposed to go back in Uganda. Or if you're coming from United Kingdom, your story is still the same. But, just as I said, it's another Saturday of the week, and we're here to discuss key issues that happened last week. General Tumukunde, the retired man, was arrested. But a week before, we were here and we talked about him, and some people were like, no, this is a guy who's not going to make any difference. But it seems to be the government is scared of the guy. Is it true that the government is scared? No. Is it true that people are scared of his life? Yes or no? So this is what some of the things that we're going to be discussing. And of course, the issue in China and back in Uganda, where Uganda Crossroads is so much focused on. So guys, I want to thank you. Today, it's very interesting that it's a men's show. Because we've just celebrated the Women's Weekend and Women's Day, we decided and agreed with Sarah that she's not going to be part of us today, but she's with us online and she's with us. She's going to be discussing a couple of things through the online platform, and we'll expect a word from her. But guys, I want to thank you. Today, we are so happy that the question has always been, you guys are one-sided, your TV is one-sided. Why do you only bring people power or people from opposition? It's not what it is. Campfire TV is a TV that caters for every party, every individual, and everything politically. So I'm glad that today we are now balanced. We have Eddie, international representative from the NRM party, and of course the government in power. We have Jumba, political analyst, Richard Myomba, people power affiliate and political analyst, just like Eddie, international political analyst too. So guys, I want to thank you. Today, you may not give me an excuse that, we have a lady who's going to neutralize us. No. You're all guys, and it's good that Sarah is celebrating her Women's Day, and we wish her the best. We expect to have her next weekend. But guys, I want to thank you again for coming and joining me. I already started the show by telling you how my week was. Truth be told, my week started so nice. Before we started the show, I was discussing with these guys that I appreciated and celebrated the success of Cinderella Sanyu. Many people, when they see me, they look at only politics. So I also enjoy entertainment, and I was so happy when Cindy successfully made her concert, and everyone was happy about it, the live music and everything. I did not go there, but I had to pay for some of my friends to go and attend the show. So Cindy, congratulations. Guys, I'm back to you. I know you were taken by my part, but yeah. So let me start with you, Jumba. Jumba, how was your week?
My week was pretty good, but at the same time, I can't avoid turning my eyes away from what is really ravaging the entire planet Earth, which is this virus. So I've been thinking about it and also thinking about my family as well. Sometimes it can be a little scary when you look at the world we are in, and then you say, oh my God, this can be it. So it was a little scary.
All right, so I will come back to Eddie after Richard. Richard, your week, was it so interesting, or it was 50-50?
My week was so interesting. The most important part of my week that made me interesting was this the paper Geno, the son of President Museveni, making one of the greatest war blunder. He made a political blunder and a military blunder by arresting Geno Tumukunde, avoiding him to contest for the presidency of Uganda, and then by dividing the army into two. That was the greatest news that I got. When I saw that, I knew that people power actually is going to go into power.
All right. Ed, first of all, was your week interesting? Before I start my question, was your week interesting?
Oh yeah, it was interesting actually. I was trying to follow up closely what was happening way back in Uganda. And really, I think this week, this is when we had two presidential hopeful, like Anka Bob Wine and Dr. Kizza Besigye, who were almost giving a national address on TV, and I was listening to them closely. Then we also had the arrest of the presidential hopeful, that is Lieutenant General Tumukunde. Then I can't fail to mention about the global pandemic, the corona pandemic that's going on. I think this is coming another world war. Actually, right. If we're not serious, we should be very questioned about the coronavirus going on around the world.
Right.
Luckily, that Uganda, we are still safe and very safe.
All right, sure. Jumba, you know, I never wanted really to go so much into the coronavirus part because we're expecting probably next weekend to have an expert in that field. But the most important part, that there was a picture of some videos that were circulating via social media recently in Uganda, where one individual, probably a woman who had just come from China, some people suspected she had coronavirus, and instead of people running away from the scene, they were just coming to see the victim. What did that tell you as an individual when you hear such stories and narratives going on in the country? People don't scared about their lives.
It's not about people getting scared. In the first place, I don't know how truthful the video was. And let's assume it was true. You should remember that the same people, the same population are the people that were flocking Nanyonga. If you remember, you might have been young or probably before you were born. During the AIDS epidemic, there was a lady called Nanyonga who told people that she had a cure for AIDS, and she was dishing out mud or soil to people, and people were flocking these places. We can look at people today that are flocking into some of these convent churches in Uganda and shrines. It's a question of people that are desperate. The desperation is what is pushing people into this. But I don't think people are going there to see someone who is suffering from COVID-19. It's because there is not enough information to give out to people on the how this virus spreads among people.
Right,
if
so
people had enough information, I don't think they would be doing stuff like that.
All right, sure. So from there, I want to go straight away to our political discussions. Last week, Honorable Robert Chagranya, I would start with that, had an interview with one of the local media channels, NBS. And he mentioned a couple of things. He was asked different questions. But the most important part was when he was asked the question of what he's expecting to do in the first 100 days. Based on your observation and analysis, what happened according to you? What did you pick from his discussion on that part of the first 100 days?
Is the question to me?
Yes, that's the question to you.
I have a forgive me today, but I have a problem.
Right.
To me, we are crossing over. I mean, you know, hatching eggs, counting your chicks before the eggs hatch. So that's what we are really doing. And it's the question, it's the reason why I didn't listen so much about it, because we still have to snatch power away from Museveni before we can start counting our chicks. So that's why I'm pushing this question back to my brothers, because to me, I really believe the greatest challenge that Uganda is facing today is to remove a dictatorship that has been in power for 35 years. That is the greatest challenge. In fact, that is what we should be laying all our strategies to do. Because whatever plans you have for the 100 days in power, you will never achieve those plans until you remove the stumbling block. This roadblock that has turned Uganda into a personal property. So that's why I'm not going to go into those 100-day yard, what you call them, benchmarks or achievements, because Uganda has to first transition itself from a dictatorship a man who has been in power for 35 years, a man who has never in his life, never exercised democracy. Can I take you into history a little bit?
Just a second, yes.
Sure. Do you allow me? Museveni in Fronasa, he headed it. He never passed it over to anyone. In NRA, when NRA, his party then, joined Professor Yusuf Kirondele to form NRA, NRM, Museveni headed it because Lule was in exile, Museveni was in the country. Right. He never passed on leadership to anyone whatsoever. It becomes NRM party. He becomes the head, never passed leadership to anyone else. He doesn't even allow anyone to try to contest that chair. So a grain of democracy doesn't exist in Museveni. So a person who cannot practice democracy even within his own party at home, don't expect him to allow the country to transition democratically from him to someone else. So it's going to be snatched away from him. All
right, so Eddie, I want to bring you straight up from there. Earlier you mentioned about the interview of Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi, and you picked some interest from it. Now, what according to you did you find interesting, or like, no, this is not the right candidate, and the reason why you still support President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who has been in power for quite a long period of time?
Thank you very much. I think I watched closely, and actually, even after the interview, I went back to the social media platforms and I watched it closely. But let me first praise the Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi for being courageous. And, you know, it takes sacrifice and courage to stand up and be a presidential hopeful, to also be nominated as a presidential candidate. But more so, it's not all about the decision you make to stand. But people look at your policies that you have that brings you to the scene to stand for a presidential as a candidate. Because when you look at his speech, there are very interesting areas that I picked in. You talked about the 100 days.
Right.
The issues he mentioned about the 100 days in his speech, he talked about the rule of law in Uganda. I don't know what he means by rule of law, because these are, in Uganda we have courts and we have the constitution that we follow. These are the same courts that release people on bail, they release him on bail. These are the same courts that release, these are the same courts that release this lady of FDC who...
You're talking about
no, Ingrid Turinawe, and even they had to pay him, was it about 160 million Ugandan shillings. So this, when you talk of rule of law, I don't know what he means. Then he talked also about...
But it only favors, if I may stop here a little bit, it only favors those who support the government, doesn't favor those who oppose the government.
Actually, but
Stella Nyanzi doesn't support the government. Stella Nyanzi doesn't support the government.
Right.
Ingrid Turinawe doesn't support the government. Then so there are so many other people that I can't mention here that the courts of law have set them free. But if you say there's no rule of law, and then at the end of the day you petition the courts of law to do so and to do this and this, then in his speech he also mentioned about the education system. He talked about the health system. Let me take you a little bit back in 2011. Kampala had no hospitals in 2011. As we talk now, I'm just bringing an example of Kampala district. I'm not going to other districts.
You're talking about mostly functional hospitals.
Most functional hospitals. In 2011, we had no hospitals, those hospitals. Right now, as we talk, we have Kawempe as a regional referral hospital. We have Churudu as the regional referral hospital. We have the women's hospital. That is in Mulago, a specialized women's hospital that is in Mulago. We have now, Mulago has been turned into a specialized hospital.
But you know, the question one may pose on that issue is, yes, the hospitals are there in terms of buildings, but the kind of services that are provided to individuals, do these services satisfy the individuals, the Ugandans who pay taxes every single day? That's a question one may pose to maybe go against your narrative.
Can I jump in a
little
bit?
You know when you say that,
sure.
When you say that, you remind me of one thing.
Right.
This musician, the late Paul Kafero. Paul Kafero, in his music, He was preaching about how Mulago was bad and he cannot be. Actually, even he has a song where I said, when I get sick, never take me to Mulago. But unfortunately, when he got sick, he was rushed to Mulago, and that's where he was treated, and then he recovered. So then later I changed the tone and started singing differently. So we don't want to put the efforts of the Ugandan health labor force that is working day and night, 24 hours, to heal the Ugandan people. Yes, we shall accept there's a little pay that needs to be raised, which the parliament just passed recently, and they are thinking of increasing the salary of the health workers. So we should. There are, of course, in every sector there are challenges.
All right.
But there are mitigations that we're trying our level best to mitigate the challenge.
Sure, I'll come to Jomba, but let me first bring.
I wanted to make a rebuttal because these things shouldn't go unchallenged. It's a rebuttal. Listen,
I'm going to come back to you, but I want to bring in.
Allow me just to chip in a little bit,
Right,
because my brother talks about hospitals. Let me start with that. One thing he forgets, he doesn't give us the numbers in terms of Ugandans that are treated, the kids that are treated, the women that are dying, because without numbers, without data, whatever you are talking is nonsense. Sorry to use that word. Uganda loses 18 women every single day. Uganda loses almost 100 kids every 1,000 kids before the age of 5. So those are the statistics we have. The hospitals he calls referral. I come from Lubuurwa. Actually, I'm going to be donating something in Nakaseke Hospital. This is an hospital. Recently, a team of people went there to look at this hospital. It is the referral hospital in about 5 districts. The hospital has no running water. Maggots were crawling in the wards. It's a referral hospital for Nakaseke, for Lubuurwa, for Chiboga, and another district somewhere there. Because these people create names, fancy names, wonderful names. Referral hospital, specialized hospital. But what we are looking for is the results. Ugandans who go to this hospital, what are the results? Can Museveni and his family get treated in his hospital? Why does he send his daughters to produce grandkids abroad? Why does he use taxpayers' money to send his cronies and friends to South Africa for treatment? If really these hospitals are good. And hospital that is not good for Museveni is not good for any.
All right, Jomba, I want to bring in Richard. I'm still going back to the issue of Honorable Chagranyi's speech. I'm so much concerned about if 100 days, things that they plan, you guys and People Power plan to do in those days. Of course, you mentioned a couple of things that cannot be achieved in one day or 100 days. But what did you pick from that point?
So let's begin with security. That stabilize the security of a country, because that's number one. And the rule of law, they all work together. It's going to take People Power only 3 weeks to stabilize the security of the whole country. 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks is registration and checking backgrounds of people, because what you need first is the civil defense police in the whole of country, because the police right now in the country is working for the government to terrorize people. And what comes out that goes to the courts of law is actually bogus. We used to have something in Uganda called Bamuyunze section. They have put a section on him because someone can look at you with your tribe of not bribing him, your hatred, and actually it gets cases against you, and you'll be persecuted in the courts of law. Look at Tumukunde. These are from the cases. Let me give you an example. The second 2 weeks is training civil police forces in the same area where you come from, because what the British left in the country, what Museveni actually went ahead with, he was even supposed to change that, is why do you get someone from one end of the country and take him to the other end of the country? Does he know the culture? Does he know the language? Is he going to do the purpose of the police against the people, or the police to protect people? So the first 100 days, on only 21 days, the security of the country will be normal. How? By training civil defense police in the area, from Karamoja, from Uganda, from Tolo. The very people that exist in that area will be armed, trained partially. Because the whole of the police, there has to be an overhaul of the system. Because what comes from there is exactly what even Museveni did. If you are going to arrest someone, if there is a case on the village or in an area, the local civil police has to go with the police there. In case they had not killed people in this civil war that we are going in, then you go to check on what exactly the police is saying against this person, then take him to the police, then you write statements verified by the local defense or the local civil police here, and then you go to the courts of law. That is going to be achieved by people power only.
All right, so guys, I want to bring, I want to start.
There's so many things, but that one, at least the security and the rule of law, I took it very well.
Yeah, I think you want to rebuttal that, and then we can go to the issue.
I'm not really rebuttaling as such, but there are some things, some points that we need to put clear. You know, it's not very good to misinform the country and the people way back in our Uganda, because, for example, my elder brother Jumba, when you say that we found bed bugs in the hospital, we found there's no running water, there's no bed bugs, the ward is dirty. I mean, are you blaming that to Museveni? No, so you want the president to go in Nakaseke to sweep the ward?
Who captured the power?
You want the president to go in Nakaseke to fumigate the bed bugs?
Who captured the power?
These are the people. These are the Ugandan human resource we have. They were trained in their school. All those things. When you go to do medicine, they don't only train you to inject a patient, but also they train you administration. They train you. They tell you what you have to do as an administrator. So don't expect the president to go and sweep the wards. Don't expect the president to go and fumigate the bed bugs. And if we fix water, if we put running, because the role of the government is to make everything available. If I avail you with water at your hospital, do you expect me to monitor the bills that need to be paid? My role is to wait for your budget. What budget do you have to run the hospital? And my role as the government or as the executive is to avail the budget from Nakaseke. So the other thing.
Let me, if I may ask you a question before I go to General Tumukundi's case. President Museveni recently was seen chasing or firing some of the nurses and doctors in some area in Nakauka, Wakiso district. As a president, he exercised his executive powers to make sure that people get better services. But the question is, why doesn't he do the same to these other departments, other hospitals in areas like Lubuurwa? Even Mulago Hospital, one time it was shown in the media, people not having access to medical.
Is it okay?
Sure, but I want him to first give me a response.
Like, you know, Mr. Moderator, David, when you say the president chased away people from Wakiso district, that was Wakiso district, I remember, because I was part and parcel of that's restructuring. Because, like, if the president does one thing in the district, it's a multiple effect. When it is done in the Wakiso, it is an example to show other districts that you have to shape yourselves. If you don't pull up your stocks, I'm coming for you. And I think that impact, what he did, it caused a very tremendous impact, because people were missing coming to the hospitals on time. Even the government introduced the digital locking and locking out. The reason was people were absenting every time. So at least the role of the government is to avail the services that needed. Now, the behavior and the characteristic of a human being who is rendering a service, it cannot be controlled by the president. It cannot be controlled by the government. People have to have the passion to serve. If you don't have the passion to serve, why are you there?
All right, sure. Jumba, let me ask you that question too. Yes. Isn't it the responsibility of the individuals, but not the president, to make sure that people get the best services? Why should the president come to the hospitals to clean them when there are people who are paid for those services?
We call that passing blame. It's very good. I mean, Museveni, he has been doing that for the last 40 years. When the RPF, those boys were part of NRA and UPDF. In fact, the late Rijema was the deputy commander and Minister of State for Defense. When they took arms and ran away to attack Rwanda, Museveni said the boys went, my boys. He didn't take any blame. But this was part of his army that went and invaded a neighboring country. When there were ghost soldiers in the north, he blamed it on the officers. When the soldiers were, when one of the officers lighted a train wagon with people inside, they blame that particular officer. So NRM has trained its cadres, like my brother, to always pass the blame. But they are forgetting that when a system rots, it rots from the head. The results you see in hospitals like Nakaseke, Kayunga, and so on, is because the rot comes from the top. Now, Museveni has created a psychophancy of system whereby a doctor cannot fire a junior because a doctor swindles medicine. Now, the minister cannot fire the doctor because the minister is global funds. The president cannot fire the minister because he keeps rigging elections. That's the whole pattern. And nothing cannot change until you remove the rotten head from the fish.
Let me cross-examine my friend.
Hope I'm not in court.
I'm coming and record.
Maybe a lawyer and you're putting me in a dock.
You are right, sitting right here in America, in a very good country.
Yes.
The political system of America and the power division in America. Make a comparison to the camera here, to our people listening to us tonight here. The two systems in Uganda, where one of the system in Uganda is a pyramid and Museveni is on top controlling everyone. Where the system in America is divided into two. Which one would you like? Can you?
Thank you very much, Council Richard. I think you are council now. Now, this is the problem we are doing. You're comparing United States, which is 300 years old, and Uganda, which is, we just celebrated our independence, 52 years, 53 years, 53 years independence. Just look at the ratio. It could be one, if it is greater than 300, this is 53. It could be 1 to 30. So you cannot, those are things that cannot one second. Those things are not comparable. And then, you know, don't look at America on the peripheral, outside the roads you pass on. Go into the deep in America. Let's go into deep the health system of United States.
Okay, let me ask you.
I'm answering your question. Go deep into the health system of United States. Do you know that United States has no, what they call intensive care units?
Okay, no problem.
No, one thing, listen, I'm answering your question. United States has, if United States is covered with coronavirus, do you know that they will need 200 patients per one intensive care unit?
Okay.
I'm telling you to Uganda. Uganda has over 600 intensive care units, both private and the government, which means that if you are to put it in ratio, the patient ratio to ICU units. That means one ICU unit in Uganda will care for 4,000 Ugandans. So this is America. One ICU unit caters for 200,000 patients in the United States. Stop comparing America to Uganda. Stop being the moral judge of the United States.
Okay.
No.
Have you read the Constitution of the United States of America? How it divided power?
All right. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys. So I want to take back my microphone.
One little thing.
I want to leave that debate, but and I want to thank you for raising up these issues. The reason why I ask you this question is whether it's possible that within the first 100 days, people power can actually transfer what Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi put before the Ugandans. And you've given your responses, and of course...
I just gave one answer, which was the security and the rule of law. There are so many others that, because I watched it very well.
May I want to back on only one item which he said. You know, he said education. But it's unfortunate that my presidential hopeful, he just hits the things he doesn't explain. That's why some of us, we shall just stay in the corridor and look at him and see where he's going, whether he's taking the right path. Then we shall say, hey, this guy might knock again. You cannot say in 100 days you are going to improve education, the education system in Uganda. Because as the national resistance movement, the political party in leadership, the education system have improved. Look at the recent result of UPE. We sat 600 Ugandan students.
But,
I mean, the primary living examination, there were 600. And UPE had 400 UPE pupils that sat for those results. So, I mean, when you go to secondary education, you have what we call
the question
USE.
is,
My contention is,
right,
you cannot say you're going to improve education system in 100 days. That's why I said when I was commenting about his speech, I said his speech was full of fiction than facts. The whole of this speech, because there's where when they asked him and he said, I'm not a politician and I don't play politics. Then I wonder whether there is a there's a misconception of these words, misuse of the words, or misunderstanding of the words.
All right, guys, so I want to thank you.
Can I say something?
Your last statement, then we go to the issue of General Henry Tumukunde.
I want to remind my brother, he was talking about intensive care units. In America, they can be created overnight. But let me tell you, the most important figure is the number and the ratio of doctors to patients. Every one doctor in Uganda caters for 20,000 people. The ratio of doctors in the United States, write it down, 1 doctor per 500 people. Those are the most important figures. ICU or whatever units you may call them, if the system is dysfunctional, you can have as many units as you want. America can ramp up its capacity to handle this thing, and it can do it in just an overnight. They'll do it.
All right,
that's
so
all I wanted to bring
sure,
up.
then let's look at the issue of General Henry Tumukunde. We all know that
you never left us with the defense of us people power. Because what is the problem of the country on an education system before we reform it? Because we are going to overhaul the whole system. The first thing Honorable Chagwany is going to do, make sure that people are well paid. In the government, in the existing education system, people are not paid. They are underpaid. Some of them are not even paid, even up to 6 months in arrears. That is number one. The immediate one in the first 100 days. School books.
People are not paid by food.
No.
Guys, we need to know your policy on the revenue. Where are you going to get that money to pay them?
All right, so
we want it on table. Show us what is your policy on revenue.
Yeah, but we are going to borrow money. We are going to borrow money.
So what is the government doing?
No.
You understand people saying
you are borrowing money from China. We are going to borrow money from America.
What difference does it make?
We are going to have what they call the
I want to thank you. I want to thank you guys for
you never let me to finish my submission. Because this is school. This is important.
I'm giving you 1
Yeah, because
second.
the next thing is books.
Right.
In the school. When I was growing up, we used it even to get free books at school, food in the morning, at lunchtime, even before we go home. All these things are needed immediately in the country. Part of the 100 days before the overhauling of the system could be done by people power, and it's going to be done. My brother
Richard is treating a disease. He's treating the symptoms and signs instead of treating the cause of the disease. Because when you say you are buying the books, for us we are making education accessible, affordable. That's what we are doing.
All right, so I'm going to leave you with one question.
Uganda is the only country in East Africa that pays over 1 million students in USE. No other in the region. No any other country that pays secondary education.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Richard. Thank you, Jumba. But I'm going to leave you guys with this question. I'm not going to get an answer from anybody.
Yes.
But when you look at the education system in Uganda, yes, it has improved over the time. But in the last 35 years plus, if you look at the buildings that these students going to from rural areas and all this, they leave questions, especially in districts that are far from the city. And then kids travel long distances. They go via water, and they don't have enough services to help them reach there.
The difference is accessible and quality. Those are two different things.
All right.
So we should.
I really thank you guys.
Was that a question I can address a little bit?
No, I'm not gonna let you address it.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Next time we'll work on it. Let's look at the issue of retired General Henry Tumukunde, who was arrested. Police says he was arrested for treason. Now let me read exactly what police says. The police the arrest follows his utterances in a series of radio, television interviews which seek to foster hatred that might lead to intercommunity violence, fomenting and glorifying violence in general. Now, that's what police said. You know, I'm going to put it straight away to Ed first, then I'll go to these other guys. You were in the government, and the government is meant to listen to every individual in the country. The government is meant to listen to even those who oppose their agenda. Why is it now that because Tumukunde is standing as a presidential candidate, then all these cases are coming up? Is President Museveni scared of the general, who is now a civilian because he's no longer a military officer?
Let me tell you one thing. I'm going to take you back just a little while.
Right.
It's not the first time they're arresting General Tumukunde.
Right.
It could be the 5th time or 6th time or 7th time, if I'm not mistaken. And this is not the first general to stand against President Museveni.
But he's arrested every time he comes up to say, I want to challenge President Museveni over this and this issue.
This is why this is what I'm saying. He's not the first one to be arrested when he's challenging or has the intention to stand.
Right.
We had the retired Colonel Chiza Besigye. We had the General Muntu, the former army commander. He came and he wants to challenge Museveni. So this challenging Museveni is not new. But the issue is how, like, we should look at what is the intention? Why is he coming to the scene? Because this is what I tell you, that my friends here, when they are treating the disease, they are treating the symptoms. Look at the cause. Why is General Tumukunde coming to stand? Is he being frustrated because he's no longer a minister? Does he really have the patriotism for the country that wants to be a president to offer the better services? That's where I want to go. But now I'm going to tell you something. General Tumukunde was arrested in 2003.
Yeah.
He was arrested. This is the same thing, because by then he wanted to start he wanted to start a political party. But to make matters worse, he was still serving in the army. You cannot do that. The other day was arrested, and it was very clear because
but he's now a civilian who has the authority and the rights to stand as a presidential candidate.
That's what I'm explaining.
Right.
It is true. It is good for you to come and stand, but then don't come to stand and make a stunt. So what he's making is a stunt because he went to the media to say all those things. Because General Tumukunde, with all due respect, is a lawyer. He knows the section 23 of the Penal Code Act. That is 2B and 3B. And he did it intentionally because he wanted to make a stunt. You know, me, I like it. Because these people are my brother Jumba and Richard. They were pushing him on the wall. We don't know you. We don't want you. And for us, when we are saying, okay, we are watching you closely. Go, continue. So the guy was there in the middle of nowhere. So that's what he had to do because he knew it. And even if you watched his interview closely, even before they arrested him, he had talked to his lawyers, telling them, this is what I did, so I'm expecting this, so get ready to be around. So we are saying that's the stand. But I want to tell you, why is General Tumukunde coming on the scene? These people created it. My brother Richard and Mr. Jumba, they created it. Why? Why did they created it? Because, you know, when my presidential hopeful anchor, Bobi Wine, when he was coming on the scene, you know, if you knew Bobi Wine 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and you meet him now, you cannot really say that he's the true one. You know, in Uganda, we have a society which believes that if you want to be a president, you must put on suits, you must put on neckties, you must have on good shoes, you know. So that's where Bobi Wine went. Now Bobi Wine is a very smart and handsome man. Why? Because he knows that's what the society is. Now, why is General Tumukunde, General Tumukunde coming in? Right. General Tumukunde is coming in because Bobi Wine, when he was coming on the scene, he came with a combat. By then, if you really watched him closely, when he was just coming on the scene, he was putting on the green combat, those overall. But by then, they were green, or green shirts, and then a green belt when he was coming on the scene. So he made people, the society, think that when you are to lead the country, you must be a soldier, you must be an army man. But that's why you see.
Exactly.
As I close this, that's why you see the people power followers and supporters. They are put on the red overall. They have what ranks. They call themselves the General Vigila.
So you know what?
As I close.
Yeah, close. I want to bring in Jumba.
As I close. So now General Tumukunde was away. Then he saw that these people are in comedy store. So let me come as the real general, the combatant. So and I come and because there is a gap, I've come to fill the gap. This is why General Tumukunde is on the scene, and because there's a space to occupy by the other politicians. So he's trying to occupy that space, which is occupied by Bobi Wine, Besigye. That's why he's now making stunts, being arrested, because he wants to occupy the political space.
All right, sure, Jumba, your reaction. But before you bring in your reaction, I want to also ask you a question.
Yes.
General Tumukunde, first of all, we knew before he was arrested, before he declared for presidential candidacy, all the generals all the guards were taken away from his homes and everywhere. Was he trying to get protection from the media while he was looking at the situation now as it is?
Let me put it this way. First
right.
of all, I really don't care whether Tumukunde is arrested or not. That's a fact, and I said it last time.
Right.
I don't like him. He's a violent man. He's a thief. That's Tumukunde. So I don't care. Arresting Tumukunde is, NRM arresting Tumukunde is like a dog biting its own tail. That's what they're doing. This man has been their man for the last 35 years, even more. Now, whatever they are doing, that is circus of NRM. It has nothing to do with the opposition. Whatever my brother is trying to allege, those are his fiction and creation in his head. People who has never liked Tumukunde, we have never invited him. He's irrelevant. Tumukunde was trying to get relevance. Now, let's go on issue of his arrest. When you are in the forest and you are looking for an animal you think is a danger to you, and you keep cutting every tree you come across because you want to get this animal, you know what it means? A time is going to reach when the trees are no longer in the forest and the animal is after you and you have nowhere to hide. That is what's happening with Tumukunde today. These are the people who went after the courts. They went after the laws. They went after Ugandans. Now they're after him. He wants Ugandans to help him. So I really don't care. Now, here's the other thing. The cases that have been brought up by the police cannot hold for two reasons. The director of public prosecution, Chibita, was appointed a judge.
Right.
Right now, there is no one who can sign on these charges.
No, is it going on for court martial?
That's where I'm coming to. General Tumukunde is a retired soldier.
Right, he's now a civilian.
But in case these conmen, because by the way, NRM is full of conmen, and these are people who are supposed to be in the comedy store. These conmen who went and put guns in Bobi Wine's, in a room in Arua, which wasn't even Bobi Wine's room. Because when Bobi Wine ran, he just went in any room. So they went and inserted arms there. All of a sudden, the guns are no more. And treason case, Bobi Wine's treason case is no more because it could not stand in any court of law, even a dysfunctional court of law like Uganda. Now, these conmen are going to plant guns in Tumukunde's home office one of these days so that they can take him to the court martial. Because as a retired general, with a treason case that cannot be signed on by a full public prosecutor, whom we don't have right now, they are most likely to drag him to the military courts, the court martial. And then they will come up with these nonsensical things, that he had guns. Because the only way to charge him in the court martial, he must have the intent to harm the president or the country with the use of arms.
But in one of his interviews, he mentioned something that is very treasonous.
That is where I'm coming to.
Right.
There is what we call hypothetical. You cannot charge someone because he made an hypothetical question or an hypothetical answer. This is what he said. This is what he said, that if I was Rwanda, I would support the people that want change in Uganda.
But technically, that's kind of like calling.
It is not.
Based on the feud between Rwanda and Uganda right now.
Listen
it's
to me.
Calling somebody to come and support.
Tumukunde is not
cause.
Rwanda and is not Kagame. It's like saying, if I was a lawyer, I would prosecute you. You can't take me to court that you're going to prosecute me because you said you're going to. There are things that are spoken in hypothetical. Now, the problem with NRM and all its followers and all these anybody who comes up to say that he wants to stand against Museveni becomes an enemy of the state and the enemy of the country. Because to them, they have fused Museveni with Uganda as a country. They have fused Museveni with government. And that's the problem with these people. These people are suffering from, I don't know even how to call it. They are so paranoid that even one of their own, who is the conman himself, tries to say that I'm going to stand against your president, they are all jumping around and crying and arresting him. And that's what they did.
All right.
But I don't care about Mkonde.
Okay.
Yeah, so Richard, before
with him.
Richard, you step in, let me go back to what police said. Police says that, as always, our number one priority is safety and security of all Ugandans, and we would like to thank our task teams for their swift action upon recognizing the impact of the inflammatory and provocative rhetoric by the suspect on members of the armed forces. Now, police has to do their job. And they did their job very well by arresting somebody who is a potential threat to the safety and security of all Ugandans. What's your take?
Let me first answer this question on record. That man who is reading this statement and the CID, IDD, or Kuro, I think very soon they will be in the courts of law. That's, I'm not going to go more because there's more things to answer here. The issue of Rwanda, him saying that Rwanda could have been helping. We are asking Rwanda to help people power because all along there are two types of Rwandans that are coming from Rwanda and those that are existing in Uganda. Every election, these people are told to come and vote NRM in power. So we are asking you Rwandans that are in Rwanda, come in great numbers and help us people power. We shall settle all these problems between you.
The same reason.
Yes, because that's a reality.
The same reason why General Tumukunde is arrested.
Yes, that's a reality because these Rwandans have been coming in every election from Rwanda to come and boost the elections in Kampala.
The Constitution of Uganda does not allow foreign support during.
These are not foreign supporters. These are dual citizens of Uganda and Rwanda. Everyone knows it. They have two Ndangamuntu, one of Rwanda and one of Uganda. So that's number one. Let's go on the impact. Did Tumukunde's arrest help people power, yes or no? First of all, it actually helped people power because the division into two, that stupid general, or the paper general of Museveni's Muhoozi, divided the army into two. What we have been waiting for is where does the impact that sparks the revolution start? Because right now the army is divided into two, which his father had never done. The NRA original and the Special Force Command are now divided because they are now persecuting their own general. Third, the bringing of Banyankole on board. If you are telling a Munyankole, a real Munyankole, who is Tumukunde, and you actually stop him from contesting power, and you are the one holding power, and it's your stronghold of that area, you are actually empowering now people power, which is good for us. Because now the Banyankole are going to come on board and say, you people must join people power to remove Museveni from power. Everything that is doing, because what did this young man... Wait till I finish. One more. What this young man did, the general, paper general, I call Muhoozi, what he did was so stupid. Because he wanted to, what we call in the army, what we call never underestimate your enemy. Because by Tumukunde coming to the opposition, they were not going to steal the votes, and the army was just going to sit by because this man is also involved in an election. Because these people have been stealing the votes on behalf of the NRM. They have been coming out with their guns against the civilians. By Tumukunde coming in the opposition was so dangerous to them. Now he makes a blunder and actually transfers the power to the opposition now.
All right, so before Eddie, you come in, I want to ask you this question again, and then you'll add on something. The generals are now, almost every general is coming out of the forces. And those who are out of the forces already, who are retired, are against the government. Why do you think these generals are dissatisfied with what's going on? Did President Museveni go away from their agenda? Or do you think he's still on the same agenda?
I'm going to... Then something I want to school you about. In management, we have a pyramid where we have self-actualization, self-esteem. So as we are growing up, we attain these different leadership positions. So you cannot enter an army as a recruit, then you move all those positions to that level. Oh, that means if you were general, you have almost attained all the ranks in the army.
Right.
So when you reach at the level of the army, because human beings are human beings, they're never satisfied with what they have. Even if you have the billion and billions of things, you will still want to make more investments and earn more. So why are different generals coming up?
Right,
because they have reached a level of being a general. So they think the last office they want to occupy before they leave is the presidency. And they are entitled to their opinion.
Yes, that's true. But when President Museveni was coming in power, the same things he stood against are the same things he's doing right now. Doesn't that create questions as to why the generals are coming out? He said, you all know, and the public knows, the viewers know, that the president said because leaders stay for long in power, that's why Africa is having problems.
Fine.
That's one of the problems. He looked at rigging of elections during the 1986 and before 1986. The same problem that happened is the same problem happening right now. He looked at the insecurity, civilians being killed by the army officers aimlessly. These are the same things that are happening right now. Isn't that the reason why the generals who went into the bush and fought, lost their relatives and everything, the reason that's why they're coming out right now to stand against President Museveni?
Fine, thank you very much. You know when you say there was leaguing, people overstaying in power, I want to ask you something. You know, in NRM, when they registered NRM as a political party, we went into multi-party dispensation.
Right.
Previously, before the multi-party dispensation, we had a movement.
Right.
I want to tell you what, I want to ask you, my colleagues here, if on all that leadership, we had never had an election in Uganda. We have been having elections in Uganda, and people of Uganda have been genuinely voting for President Museveni. When you say President Museveni has been leaking votes, it is very good. It's very good, because I remember in the first time, Dr. Kizza Besigye came out and stood against President Museveni, and he had his political ambitions. Then we had Mama Mbabas, who was, they were calling it number 5 of the President Museveni, that he knew each and everything. Now, this is a general, Lieutenant General Tumukunde, who was the director of intelligence. That means if it is leaking elections, he had a very 90% hand. I want those people to come out and say, in 2016, this is how we leaked the elections, and this we maybe changed the voters register, we tampered with the voters register, or we tampered with the declaration forms, or we tampered with the electorates. But they have never come out well and say this is how Museveni leaked the elections. That means whatever, when they come to stand, they stand for their own interests, but not that there was leaking. Because me, I'm waiting for that day when the people have mentioned above, they come out and tell the nation and tell Uganda, this is how the NRM steals elections, this is how we do the leaking, and we're gonna stop this.
All right, sure, Jumba, your take. And Ed has a valid point that your people in your position who are claiming that NRM has been rigging votes, even those who have been part of the system have not come out to give out their views on how they've been doing the act. Doesn't that exonerate NRM from the court rigging votes?
But by the way, even in countries like Somalia, the former Soviet Union, they have elections. Before Mubarak lost power, he had won by 98%. Gaddafi used to win by 100%.
We didn't have elections in Gaddafi.
They did, by the way.
No.
So,
not with Gaddafi.
So the question of election is about the quality of election. So a country having election doesn't mean that that country is democratic. Putting that aside, I have a saying that when someone stays so long in a restroom, he reaches a point that he cannot smell the odor in the restroom. The people in NRM today, like my brother, he can't smell anything wrong with NRM. He's been in the restroom for so long. So it takes an outsider to really tell them that, you know what, it smells and you are naked. That's the problem with NRM. Now, to me, it amazes me that a young man like my brother Eddie in the US, he's in the 20s, probably the 30s.
I'm 28.
He's willing to die and lie to the country defending an 80-year-old man who has been in power for 40 years. It amazes me. He's defending a man who has never transferred power whatsoever in his organization. He's defending him. He's defending a man sitting over a country today where 80% of our budget is supported by foreign aid. He's defending a country where we are losing women in childbirth, the most natural things to do. He's defending him. He's defending a man who was an army maiming and killing Ugandans. We just saw a young girl recently killed. He's defending him. He's defending a president today who cannot even come up to address the country as a president when we are going through the coronavirus and its impact on in the country. To come up with a solid, this is what I'm saying, to come up with a solid plan as a president.
That's a lie.
To comfort the nation.
That's a lie.
To tell the Ugandans where we are going and what we have to do as we confront this epidemic. This young man is defending this president. It is really absurd and very sorry.
All right, so but before you finish up, and Richard, I
wanted to put a question to him, then he can answer those two things.
We already know that some of the cases when General Tumukunde's office was searched, they found there deserters, military gear from his office. So is it that enough to clearly show that this guy is clearly against the government and he wants probably stage a war against the government that has promoted peace over the last 35 plus years?
Like
what does that tell you?
No. Like a former soldier. He can have memorabilia, as we call them.
But he is now a civilian.
Like a former soldier and a general, there's nothing wrong having uniforms, having caps, or having all this stuff. As a former soldier, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think the issue would be how many. Because if he has one or
because
two for his own,
Tumukunde is not a fool today. To start whatever you may call it.
Mutiny.
He cannot. He's not a fool.
Let me put a question.
Much as I don't like him, he's not that stupid.
Let me ask him.
Let me finish up this, my brother. That has been Museveni's playbook. If you can allege that Kyagulanyi had guns in Arua and was going to kill the president, these people, they are police and they are prosecutors. They were even willing to take him to the court-martial. Now they think we've forgotten that. Now these are the people. You know how many people have been paraded before the court-martial and nothing comes out of it? Doesn't he remember Kizza Besigye? What they did to him? They brought even trumped-up rape charges against him because he was standing against their man. Do they have really any moral ground to stand on to tell Ugandans? They don't.
All right.
Let me ask you something before you answer. Do you know at your age that you are in, that in the bush there were promises, not even promises, written down documents that every person that is in the NRA...
The 10-point program?
No, forget about the 10-point program, that once the war is finished and you retire in the army, you can contest for the presidency. Do you know at your age, do you know that? That's number one that you are going to answer. The second thing, according to you, right where you are sitting in America, which army would you like you? Would you like the army of America, where the promotion is not by merit, like Museveni's son, that you are promoted according
but
to...
Richard, I want to stop you from there. You say President Museveni's son was just promoted aimlessly, but he went to school, and in the army, I'm sure they allow somebody's education to help him in the ranks.
After entering the army for 20 years and is now a full bar general, without the people who were there many years even before him, they are still on the rank of a captain. And you think that's a good way of promotion?
What could be, I want to go out of this discussion.
Okay,
what could be their level of discussion? What's the level of education? Because education matters in the ranks.
In the army, if you compare the army of the state of Israel, because it's the most powerful army, and you compare the army of the former Soviet Union, which is compared to the same as socialism Uganda, the army of America, which one would you prefer? You both of you, which one would you prefer? No, you answer me. No, you answer it to me. You answer it to me.
Of course, if you are preferring, you're not joining the army, that's a service.
Yeah, but
you join willingly and you determine where to go, whether marine.
But do you know that bad promotion in the army affects people, even their morale in combat?
We should not go into integrities of who has to promote, how they have to promote, because I'm sure that we have the Uganda People's Defense Forces with their act. So they know better how the promotion has to be done. Because you cannot say Muhoozi was promoted...
the paper general.
Muhoozi was promoted in a bad manner someone who has stayed in the army for over 15 years. You expect him to be in the army for over those years and is not promoted? Someone who went and trained.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you. No, let me tell you this one on record. He had 37 of his followers that he was training in Kasenyi.
I want to answer
Part of them
I want to answer my brother Jumba.
He will have to get out.
I want to look into this camera and answer. I want to answer my brother Jumba.
Take your step, and then I'll come back to
I want to answer my brother Jumba.
Yes.
Let me tell you, why, because he told me as a young man who is in 20s, how do you support Museveni or NRM? I want to tell you one thing, that NRM as a political party, me I'm not in NRM because that I'm supporting Museveni. So because I'm looking at Museveni, Museveni will go, but NRM will stay, and this is my party. Why am I in NRM? NRM represents a more enlightened positions than these other peoples, because when you look at the education policy of Uganda, we have just changed the curriculum. These people are talking about it. Look at the health system that we have. Look at the security.
Give me the opportunity to rebut.
Listen, give me 1 minute.
Right.
Look at the security. Can you go and do the farming in Somalia? Can you go and do your business in Somalia? Can you have people like in Chikubo and do it in Somalia? You guys, let us wake up. Let us respect the peace the government has to us. And now we have done our best on economic growth. Now we are moving to economic development. We are saying now we have done the roads. We have put the structures. Now we want the household income. How do we bring the household income to the people? We have put different schemes.
All right, so let's look at, before I leave you to go back to Jumba, let me look at the young girl who was shot last week, Rachel Nancha, from 6-year young girl. The security they're talking about, yes, guns are there. Yeah. Yes, individuals are there. The question that I would like to pose to your government is, are these guns well utilized, or they're just being used aimlessly to shoot Ugandans? Every week, nowadays, we report a case where one girl or one man or one boy or one old person, or probably one elder, was shot dead or injured. Last week, it was this young girl going to school. She had no business with the strike that was going on. What excuse can you give when the street is like that? Thank
you, Mr.
But
David.
moderator, I haven't made a rebuttal. I haven't made a rebuttal.
When whatever happens,
I'm gonna bring you
in whatever circumstance that happened, it's unfortunate that our sister lost her 70th, and she was not involved. She was a victim of circumstance. But I want to tell you one thing. You know, I happen to be a scientist. I'm a dentist by professional. I want to tell you that for us, after diagnosing the problem, we don't treat the symptoms and signs. If you want to cure the disease, we treat the cause. Now, my sister, it's unfortunate that she went through all that trauma.
Right.
But what was the problem? Why was this fracas there? Let us go back to the scene. Because, you know, people were saying that's a private property where this incident happened. Well, it's good. It's a private property. But that private property, when you go back and make a good analysis, how many people are supposed to work from there? This is a private property that has walkways on all sides to the public place. I mean, the old tax park. It then has a public place to the main road that is in opposite Mukwana Arcade. So, because this is private property they're talking about, it's supposed to occupy at least 50 people who can put their merchandise. But as we talk now, there are over 200 people working in that small space. So they end up occupying the public walkways that goes to the public taxi park, that comes to the main road. They interfere with the
I want to finish up with you, Ed, and then I go to Jumba.
With the traffic.
The question is, did that give the reason as to why one had to shoot somebody?
That's where I'm coming. That's because I'm diagnosing the problem. Why that happened? Because the owner of that private property, for him, he gets money from the people using the private using his place.
Was it necessary for a bullet to be pushed out? Was it necessary?
That's why I'm saying the KCCA and the police, they came to keep law and order in that public place, because people were occupying those public walkways and then the road. Why did it happen? These people were over 200. We had about 80 cases enforcement officers. We had about 5 policemen. So they were trying to overpower them. What do you expect in that scenario? So because it is the law, these people, they are the one. Our people power leader is the one in parliament who are making. They made those laws. The police, it has an act where it acts.
All right, so Eddie, I want to go to Jumba.
It had to use extra force to overcome. That's why they had to do the tear gas. They had to do the. But it's unfortunate that this was, they were saying it was stray bullet, and it was stray bullet. It wasn't called for, but that's what I'm saying. That
because
this young girl was a victim of circumstances, and the government, we don't deny that we didn't do a mistake. Right. We said we had a mistake, and we are taking responsibility of that girl right from the treatment, from her school to go back to school, and her parents. But we are responsible for what happened.
Injury, and I want to go to Jumba. Jumba, before I come into you,
yes.
The main question is, you people in opposition have taken this as an advantage to go and make, one may say, noise. Every opposition leader is now visiting the girl. Everyone is using this as a stand. Isn't that the safety of the girl is in danger by you guys going there to take pictures and everything? How can you defend that?
Mr. Moderator, first and foremost,
right,
you've seen Robert Kyagulanyi visiting so many victims of police violence. So visiting this other girl is just part of the pattern. It's very normal. When Ugandans are brutalized by their government, it is upon us, the reasonable people, to really visit them. That's very okay. There's no taking advantage of this girl, because just a few days ago, you know the people we've lost by the violence meted upon them by his government and the forces. You know Nabukenya. You know the boy in Lubuurwa. You know so many of our kids that have been brutalized and killed by NRM and its army. So visiting this young girl who is a victim of their policies. Now, the NRM and its people, and my brother here, they are very good at deflecting responsibility. So he's telling you, oh, let's diagnose the problem, why this kid was shot. Now, as a dentist and a scientist, the diagnosis you are making is wrong, because the symptoms are a result of a bigger, larger problem. Who is your president? A man who is incompetent, that today his army is running amok. They are shooting people. On every flimsy thing, they come up with guns. You go to a fist fight, they bring hammers. Let me tell you this. In the 60s, there was a vice president then who helped to abort a craft law, which was detention without order, with detention without trial. He was the first victim of that law. When Mbabazi was in parliament, he helped craft the POMA, Public Order Management Act. He was one of them. He defended it so vigorously. When Mbabazi started standing for presidents, he couldn't even make a small rally. He could not meet people. Many times his rallies were broken up using that very law he created. Now he's telling me that the people in parliament, my people, are the one making these laws. NRM has the numbers in parliament. The laws are made by this group.
How do you solve that?
The very laws that they think are good for the country. One other thing, even if there is a law can be unjust. So something being lawful, it doesn't mean that it's just. Another thing, when it comes to courts, the courts by NRM, the NRM government and Museveni is using the courts as a horse for his journeys, his political journeys, and his ability to stay in power. And that's what he's doing, and that's what he has been doing.
But
so, on this young girl who was shot, Uganda has the highest youth unemployment in the entire sub-region. Uganda. Those are facts and those are numbers.
Right.
Wow. These kids today are trying to find a means of survival. Now they come up with laws. These people. We don't want borders in the city. We don't want hawkers in the city. That's wonderful. What is the alternative?
Who comes up
What
with
are
the
you
laws?
planning for these kids?
Who comes up with the laws?
These people, they're in power. NRM government.
But Parliament.
But how do you
approves-
solve that
Parliament with
problem?
an opposition.
Kampala,
How do you solve
Parliament
the
makes
problem?
these laws
Kampala
and-
is
and
an authority. They make their own laws.
Leave alone that. The national
And who
laws.
is leading in Kampala? You
This
say
is what I'm
opposition.
saying. The national laws.
Who owns
guys,
Kampala?
guys,
It is opposition.
Guys, let me
Who owns Kampala?
Look
Who
at
owns
the
Kampala?
Alright,
look at
guys.
the case
So,
say council.
I want
give
no,
me
The
a
speaker
chance.
is
Alright,
FDC.
let them
guys,
fight
No,
it
give
out.
me a chance to
second.
cross
Let them fight it out.
Give me a chance to cross-examine him.
Let me first have a job.
Okay, let me finish up this.
Right.
The national laws today, these skewed up laws that favors NRM are created by these people. They are the majority in parliament. He knows it.
But you,
But he can- yes?
you, the public, the Ugandans, the civilians are the voters of these members of parliament.
The
So there's no one
elections
to blame
that
for the
push
government.
these people, all the elections since 1996 that pushes these people in parliament are questionable elections. 3 times, judges have come up and said the elections, there was enough malpractice. We know that. But because of Museveni's incumbency, he has put judges in position who cannot stand on their ground because they know who put them there. That's the problem when a leader overstays. He fills up the judicial system with people that are sycophants. And by the way, it is bad for everyone, even for him. One of these days, my brother will be in court. I'm telling you this. If he happens to have land in Uganda, he will be in court. And he will
I'm a
be
farmer.
on the receiving hand
I'm a farmer.
of these laws, where one of these people in power today will have taken his land. Then he will find out how good it is
All
to
right,
stand in the,
I wanna
in
bring
the
in-
courts of
I want to
Uganda.
bring in Richard.
Okay, now before I'm going to put these questions to you. On the yards, no, I'm write them
You're
down.
becoming a lawyer.
Yeah, no, because we are defending an application here.
Sure, go on.
Yeah, in the years you have, do you know the conflict of Kampala?
Conflict, yeah.
Okay, that is number one.
Maybe for your information.
No, that's
Another information.
That's number one.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
the
sure.
councillor. I'm a councillor in Kampala.
Okay. The second thing, which education system would you like? Would you like, if you are given an opportunity to go to school, would you like the education system of Uganda, of China, of America? Number 3, I'm a road engineer by profession. Can I ask you a question? Do you know what they call the road stabilizing materials called enzymes?
I hear them.
What do they do?
I hear them. I don't understand.
Okay.
There's understanding. And
Wait. Okay. Now I'm going to put a policy here for people
Put your
power.
point, Richard, and
Okay.
then we'll see how we go.
In the first 1 year in Uganda, when people power takes over government, in 1 year, there will not be a road that will not be stabilized. I don't know where you people, the
But
NRM.
the question
no,
is,
Richard, I don't know where you people,
Let
NRM.
me answer your question.
Before Eddie comes in, let's be practical. How are you going to do this in 1 year?
Okay.
Because there is a process of 1, borrowing money from these international funders, and 2, getting the right people to do these services. Here's a problem, and I want to ask you to give the Ugandans and the public that is watching you right now an answer. If you say that in the first 100 years you're going to
No, 1 year,
improve-
1 year,
in
360
in 1 year you're going to be improving the road system and all that. The question is, where are you going to get the money, and how are you going to utilize and get all these personnel to work on this question?
First of all, let me tell these people their mistakes, because they're after money, not the country. There's way before we were in school, we used to have a material called corn aid. You can even Google it. Today, there's what they call Genzyme Prime. These materials are there. They are just mixed in water, scalify the rods, spread it into the existing water, not existing surface,
Right.
that has been scalified, graded, and compacted. All over the world, including Mexico, all over the world, that stabilizes the roads. There's no dust.
Yep.
There's no things that muds. There's nothing. You don't need scientific, nothing else. You need motor graders, scalifiers, compactors, and you put these materials in use in the ground. In the whole country, all roads are going to be accessible, firm, stable, no muds in the first 1 year. I'm telling you this.
All right,
on
so-
record.
thank you.
so-
I don't know you
Yeah,
people, you don't
want-
see this. You're
I
going
want,
to
so guys,
I want to
I-
answer your question.
Yes.
If I'm allowed through the moderator.
Yeah, sure.
Because
do it and then we...
because when you ask me, do I know the conflict of Kampala, I want to tell you or give you this information that I personally am a youth councillor in Kampala Capital City Authority up to 2021. So I was elected. So whatever I'm talking about, if it is politics, I've been a supporter, I've been an electorate, and I'm a leader now, elected leader in Kampala Capital City, the capital of Uganda. And when you're a councillor in Kampala Capital City Authority, you are almost an MP in somewhere, some far away in the country. So when you talk about the conflicts, there are no conflict in Kampala Capital City Authority, because the issue was about the law, and we asked the councillors and our mayors by then, we came together and said we want devolution of power. And the government had our calling. Okay. The powers have been devolved.
After going to Chankwanza and you are bribed.
You have to know where the power lies, because
the power of capacity council is in the hands of President Museveni. It's an authority owned by President Museveni.
One second. Let me tell you.
How about
let me finish this thing. Right. Because when you say that you went to Chankwanzi, we didn't go to Chankwanzi to
be paid.
Allow me to answer my question. Your question. So we didn't go to Chankwanzi to get paid, as you also said. The reason we were lobbying for the devolution of power, because let me tell you, the mayors, the councillors were at the division level, but we were just there idle doing nothing. As I talk now, the powers have been devolved to the divisions. Now the roads you are talking about, they are going to start be constructed by the mayors at the divisions. As I'm talking now, before this, the amendment, divisions, they didn't have a division finance officer. But as I talk now, we have a division finance officer, and we're gonna get our own budget. When we get our own budget, that means we can do the road construction. So now we have the technical people. This is where we need you. We say, Richard, you are technical, you are an engineer in that. Come and bring your knowledge that you have.
So you were saying that members of People Power should come and join NRM?
For us, we welcome everyone. That's why you see Betkamers with us. You see Honorable Natural Change with us. We don't chase people away like these people are chasing away from Mukunde. We don't know him. So then you talked about, you are asking me which education system do I have? Me,
Do you want? I asked you which one do you want?
Of course. People. The reason why
Chinese, Ugandan, or American.
The reason why people move, they go for exposure. When you go to exposure, you learn, and then you come, you implement what you have learned from what you have gone, from where you've been. So me, I'm proud UPE product. Me, let me tell you one thing. Me, I came to Kampala when Museveni introduced UPE in primary schools. That's when my dad came to our village and talked to my mom and said, Museveni is going to pay school fees for the children.
So I left my village,
I left my village and came to Bati Valley. When I came to Bati Valley, by then, Bati Valley Primary School was divided into two, private and government. I went to government and I started going to school. Now here I am. So like about the education system, they teach you to be a job creator. It's what you make it. Life is what you make it. When you said education system.
Let me give you my final question, and then I'll go to the other guys and Richard, and then I'll be out. Where do you see UPE today?
UPE is one of the best systems we have in Uganda. I was telling you when I was starting this program. Right. I told you for the last results of UPE, we had over 600 people sitting for UPE. Then, out of the 600, over 400 people were UPE products. So we are looking at UPE as an education system. Is this system, does it make education accessible? You know, there are two things you guys are confusing. You are confusing between quality education and accessible education and affordable.
Now, I'm going to go personal a little bit. What do you prefer? Quality, or you prefer just accessible?
In whatever structure, it's a gradual process. You have to first have the accessibility, you have to go to affordable, then after affordable, you make it quality. That's where we are going.
But these kids are growing old and they will never get a chance to go back in primary.
We don't do it at primary, we do it at primary, second. That's why we introduced a loan scheme at secondary education. Because so many people finish their primary school and they cannot afford the secondary. So we said, okay, you can't afford the secondary, we have some loan for you. Then we introduced USE. We are paying for them. At the university level, people finish senior 6, senior 4, they drop out. They don't have money to pay. We introduced the loan scheme. Over 1,000 people have benefited from this scheme. What else do you people want?
All right, thank you. Jumba, your final take? And
it's a little sad, but now I'm no longer sad because my brothers said a lot. Born, raised, went through UPE, born on Museveni's time. He hasn't seen anything different from that. So he has nothing to compare with. So, but
I read the history.
But just to educate him, that free education, especially primary free education, many countries have done it. But the question is, the products that you're pushing out, what's the quality of those products? How are they going to compete globally? Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Because where we are going, it's going to be a global market where a child from Uganda is going to compete with a child from India and China and the USA. That's the nature of the beast we are going to face. So to me, my brother with his numbers, I would rather reform our educational system to reflect the global demand and the nature of the coming jobs.
But that's what we are doing. We are restricting the curriculum.
Before I finish up, Jumba,
Yes.
the problem you have in Uganda, as opposition especially, is whenever the government comes up with something new, you always oppose it. Recently, they changed the curriculum, and you guys in opposition were the very first people to say we don't want it in the system. So
not at all.
What does that represent?
No. My brother, listen. Any sensible government, there's a time, what we call a time for hearing, where a new policy that is going to impact millions of kids. You don't just wake up with a white paper in parliament to push a new policy. Because Ugandans have to make an input into this. But because these are dictators, that's how they operate. They wake up, they bring a policy to the parliament. We are changing the syllabus. We are changing the curriculum.
They added new languages, Chinese,
bring in Chinese without even research.
To go into the international
because even,
market?
listen, these people are pushing Chinese, but the Chinese are pushing English. That's the problem. Uganda already has English. There's no reason whatsoever today to push Chinese at the expense of English. Even English itself in Uganda, we have to push and perfect the English language before we even push Chinese. You know what research says? Kids must be educated in their native language in the formative age of education. Because that's when they grow up the most. That's when their brains are developing the most. Uganda is running away from the native languages of these kids, bringing in Chinese, because these people think it's fancy to promote Chinese, when the Chinese are pushing English in their country. Because they don't do research. These guys are dictators who think when Museveni wakes up all of a sudden, he dreams, he wakes up with a dream, he wants it to be implemented. He comes in parliament, he has the numbers, he pushes it, it's policy. When he had just come in 1986, he came with butter trade. All of a sudden he came. Oh, we are going to butter Kasoli and send it to Tanzania, and Tanzania sends us what? Transformers. Because Museveni, Uganda is a laboratory for all his crazy ideas in his head.
So I want to thank you guys. Jumba, you have made something strong. Richard, you made something strong. Ed, you made something strong. Finally, let's look at the money that was sent to China, now that we've talked about the Chinese. And just a small bit of it, then we go out
Let me start as I end.
Right.
Because that's the level of incompetence. I was looking at this minister, Bahati, to really come up and say, oh, we sent 600,000 instead of 60,000, 10 times more.
Oh.
You look at the level of incompetence and say, if they can do such a small mistake, how much money has been wasted? How much has been sent out like that?
All right. Ed,
that's the question I should leave
the government you support,
oh my God,
aimlessly. You say this is a money that you don't just wake up and
these
send.
people are supposed to be in
so
history.
The question is, how did your government you support
fail
to know
it's terrible.
all the process that money went through? Towards the end, they said the money which was sent was too much compared to what was needed. What explanation can you give to the Ugandans who are watching right now?
Fine. Before we talk about how much money was dispatched, how much was received, then in which mode was it in good faith or in bad faith? We have to know the origin and then the circumstances under which the money was sent. If you remember very well what happened within that time when coronavirus had just broken up in China, our students were there grumbling, sending viral videos, crying, having no masks. So the country was on tension. Then, but these are people, these are students who went for education.
Right.
So what is the line ministry? That was the Ministry of Education. So the Ministry of Education had to react immediately because that was an emergency. That was life or death. So the ministry had to write, Ministry of Education to write to the Ministry of Finance to release that money because for them they wanted the students to get enough money what they can use within that emergency. Because with an emergency, you can't determine how much you're going to spend. That's when you see America declaring a state of emergency. It's not because that there's a lot of coronavirus, but because they want to get the budget to run to combat the coronavirus. That's why they're declaring a state of emergency in US. But why?
It creates a question for someone to send 538 $200 US.
That's where I'm going.
As an accident.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. Ministry of Education wrote to the Minister of Finance before the approval of cabinet, because this is because they couldn't even go maybe before they went for the approval. They went to the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance immediately got the letter, confirmed it, and sent the money. Then they went to the cabinet. They told them we have an emergency. Our students, it's either life or death. Then the cabinet said no, but this is a lot of money. We cannot release this money. The cabinet approved 61,000. So then, by that time the cabinet approved, the Minister of Finance has already switched the money. So
that's the question that I'm trying to pose to you, before I bring in Richard. That the government is not creative enough to know that you don't just send money; you have to follow a process. Why did the ministry send the money to these people instead of first getting advice from the cabinet?
We should understand the difference between an emergency and then a normal situation.
All right.
Because that was the situation that our student, those are Ugandan students in China. We had to cater for their lives. But the good thing, all the same, no money is going to be stolen, no money will be taken away, because the money is going to come back to the coffers of the government, and we shall have our money back.
All right, Richard, you find a take on the money was stolen?
Okay. NRM to bring money back. Okay. That's going to be a miracle.
I'm not going to wait. The education system of a country matters to the direction of the country where it is going to move in the future. We are Ugandans that need our country, that need our right to decide which destiny we are going to. NRM is pushing, because of Museveni's ideology, Uganda to the far left, the friendship of China. The reason why I support Honorable Chakwe, I'm sitting here, because on behalf of People Power and Jumba, is because of his friendship with the Western democracies. So we as Ugandans are going to go a vote in a referendum and decide which side we want to go. Richard, we want to go to the Western democracy. American education system, or we want the Chinese education system, because even the Chinese themselves come here for a better education system. But Richard, before you finish, go for the youth in China.
Before you finish, so are you trying to say that Africa cannot take care of itself? Rather, it has to, if it's not moving to the left, it has to come to the west.
The world is divided into two ways, spheres of influence. You either belong to the left or you belong to the west. That's normal.
How about if you create your north?
No, you cannot.
All right, so thank you guys. I want to thank you. I want to thank you guys for coming and sharing your ideas and views. And to our viewers, I want to thank you so much for always watching Uganda Crossroads. You are the reason why we always come here every Saturday to discuss different issues. And I'm glad for Ed joining us today. It has been really interesting because we have now gotten different perspectives. People have been complaining. You bring only People Power supporters, FDC, DP. Now, this has been a very great moment for the show. But to our viewers, this is my closing take today. We've always complained about the government, about President Museveni, about the leaders, or probably the presidents of these countries. But let me ask a question to you who is watching me right now. Why is it whenever our members of parliament or our leaders in the lower levels make mistakes, we always blame the president? Here's the problem. We say the president is influencing the legislature. The president is influencing the judiciary. First, for the judiciary, the president has the executive powers to somehow influence it by voting for the right candidates. But to the members of parliament, it's you, the voter, who is supposed to be blamed for the errors you are making. It's you, the voter, who is supposed to be responsible for the errors that these members of parliament are doing. You claim that they are not representing you, but every time they are saying you vote for them. Most of our members of parliament in Uganda have been caught in corruption scandals. But guess what? Every time they stand, you vote for them. Now, we should always blame and say, oh, the government is trying to hoodwink the public by the stunts that are going on from General Tumukun and other cases. But the problem is not the government. The problem is you, the voter. Why do you vote for the same people you see every day in the media involving in scandalous activities? That is a question I'm leaving to you today. Think about the members of parliament you vote for. The president, there are over 29 candidates today that are going to stand as leaders as the president of Uganda. We only need one. And that one person is you, the voter, who's responsible for that. Have a great week. See you next Saturday. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me. Oh, they told us we are no longer shaking hands. So because of the coronavirus, I want to thank you so much. So to our viewers, thank you so much. See you next Saturday. Have a great week.